This is Dan Bespris from the Old Man Squad Network. You're listening to Scott Keller and Steve St-Pierre. Crack a beer, sit back, and relax. This is Will Slam Beer.
All right, welcome back to Will Slam Beer, a fantasy WNBA podcast. I'm Scott Keller, along with Steve St-Pierre. You can find Will Slam Beer at the handle at Will Slam Beer on both X and Blue Sky. And of course, we are proud contributors to the Old Man Squad Sports Network and presented by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook as well. We are back without a guest today. And actually, we're back a little bit later than usual. Usually we get these out Monday or Tuesday. So fitting with the Will Slam Beer, this is the hangover edition. And I mean, literally, because my wife and I went out on, let's see, that was Monday night. The World Cup game was on. So I watched a little bit. It wasn't a great match. Let's put it that way. Belgium took care of US there. But yeah, had a little too many adult beverages, and I canceled our recording yesterday. So we're doing this on Wednesday. But how about you? How you doing, Steve?
Doing really well. Missed you guys last week. Fantastic show. Thank you to everybody who was on here, and just thank you for listening. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, thank you to Jesse, Ryan, and Jim. It was awesome just meeting them in person. Two of them happened to learn on the podcast that they live in right around Nashville. Really cool. That was kind of cool. Yep. So it was a good conversation, and it was fun to do. I love messaging listeners and people that love fantasy women's basketball just as much as we do. So it was very cool. Yeah, actually, one thing that came out of that, not necessarily out of it, but Jim Beaver, who was on, he was messaging in one of our team chats the other day, and he was, saying, hey, I kind of feel like there's just way too many transactions going on, way too many free agent pickups. The waiver wire is off the hook. And in the ESPN standard fantasy leagues, they have 7 transactions per week. I think you and I both agree that's probably way too many.
You and I, last year, when we started our first industry league, we had it unlimited. And, like a long time ago, you and I talked about, we like the fact that it's, people can have flexibility to do whatever they want. But having said that, especially with WNBA and such fewer players, I think you do have to put some sort of a limit on it, especially if you're able to kind of toggle between your injured list and your active list. You just don't need to be having that many moves. Plus, it makes it more fun to target those streaming players, the ones that have the nice schedules coming up, it makes it that much more fun to kind of utilize that. And, so.
And I think, and that was mentioned also in the chat. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was mentioned that, the WNBA schedule is so hard to kind of build your team around week over week. For example, I believe it's next week. The Las Vegas Aces don't have a single game in that week. You got to make moves to make up for some of that stuff, or try and make up for the games that you're lacking, that you're not getting from Asia Wilson and things like that. So it's definitely strategy. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, everybody knows I love it. That's why I did the Substack with streaming schedules and things that we'll take a look at here in a minute.
It's been amazing.
So I enjoy the streaming and the strategy aspect of it. I think it's a lot of fun, but I do agree. I think 7 is probably too many. So that's something, one of our leagues, we're talking about it. You talk with your league mates, you go, hey, what do we want to do with this next year? And that's something that we might move to 4. But we're also talking about something to mitigate even more moves, is expanding the rosters. I believe ESPN right now has 9 players on your roster, right? If I have that correct.
Yeah.
So even if you move to 10, 11, it shallows out the free agent pool. It makes the teams bigger. And then by default, you're going to have less transactions. And I can prove it because like you said, in our leagues, we have 4 moves and we have a little bit bigger transaction or roster. And I go look at my team and I see how many moves I made in one league compared to the other. And it's about 50% increase in moves that I've made in one league compared to the other because of less roster spots and more moves available.
Yeah. And it's just another opportunity to just kind of continue a conversation that we've had before about, to me, first of all, like, I think everything should be even. We should be using even numbers. Like, I think when you draft players, you should go up and down the board. Said that at the beginning of the year. And then another thing, that I've been really big on is like, I don't really think we need to have bench spots. Like, I think, just have your active players and then like have your IL be your bench, like simplify the game, make it easier. Now, having said that, you pointed out the fact that once, with ESPN, once the games start, you can toggle with your bench. You cannot with your IL.
Correct.
It'd be nice if they fixed that. It'd be just as nice if another site offered the platform and then maybe we don't even have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But either way, like I find it a lot simpler when you're not having to worry about your bench. You just have everybody be active and then your IL is your bench.
Yep. Nope. I can totally see that. And you notice they tried to do something this year. What was it? Insurance or something they added on there. So if somebody is supposed to start and you have somebody on your bench that doesn't, they get switched. It'll automatically switch it for you. They added that to some leagues, which
I didn't see that.
Yeah. I did notice that at the beginning of this year, but after I set stuff up, they didn't talk about it. They didn't, promote it, which, the platform we're using now doesn't do a great job with some things. I'm very vocal about some of the mistakes they made. You and I went back and forth. Actually, Yuri actually sent me a message the other day too. She's like, yeah, the Fibich thing kind of screwed me.
We're going to talk about that when we talk about injuries and stuff. But it's continuing to screw me in one of my leagues. So
so it's a lot of improvement need to be made. I was going to say we have, I'll say it right here on the podcast. We have connections, right? Because we had Jenny LaCroix on the podcast with ESPN.
One of our favorites, by the way.
Yes, she's awesome. I can't wait to have her on again.
Nothing against her whatsoever.
No, but she put me in contact with some of the fantasy people over there. And, I kind of expressed, represent the WNBA fantasy community and just said, they wanted really give me your wish list of things that we need to fix. I don't feel like I'm really, I'm not the product manager. I'm not going to do that and divulge other information. However, I told them, I said, you just need to give it the respect that all the other fantasy sports deserve. And that great example, you look at, we talked about some of this stuff on last week's pod, but just the pool of players. I mean, there's people who have been retired for over 2 years that are still in that pool of players. Just keeping the updates, just giving it the same respect that they give football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and some of the other sports even too that they have in there. So anyways, I'm fighting for you. It sounds like a attorney ad or something like that. But I'll do my best to try and make everybody as happy as possible playing this game.
There you go.
All right. So I'm going to move into, I got kind of sidetracked with that. I should remind everybody, reviews. We always appreciate those. Thumbs up on YouTube. If you're watching, you haven't done that, or if you're listening and haven't given a review, just give us a little 5 stars or 4. If you think we deserve 4 or less, go ahead. Be honest. It's totally fine.
Be honest.
I want to know that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, let's move into, I figure we can go through this real quick, but the All-Star selections happens. And usually the All-Star, oh, look at that. I zoomed in too much. It looks like Paige Becker's separate line. I don't know if I can. Oh my gosh. So these if you're viewing on YouTube, it's that column is not expandable. So it's kind of like a lot of the WNBA technology these days, like a lot of people experiencing right now.
It is what it is. We all know who Paige Beckers is.
Nonetheless, so it looks a little different if you're viewing, but these usually align pretty well with fantasy production. I don't think there's many people. Once in a while, I think you'll see somebody that is high on fantasy kind of per game in the top 20 that might not have made it. There's a couple usually omissions, but I think this was pretty close. But yeah, just running through from the top. Paige Beckers, obviously, very deserving, awesome player. Caitlin Clark is on there. Got to get there. Olivia Miles, that's always a big one for people. Very happy about. She's had just a phenomenal year, right? So
amazing.
So well deserved there. Yeah, I mean, you noticed you'll get the Indiana fever. You'll get a lot of them. It happens. So we got Clark, we got Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston.
Yeah. All very good players.
Yeah, those were all very good and very deserving. Natasha Howard, fantastic, having a great year too. I don't think you can argue with almost any of these. You can make your point when you get to the ends, when you're looking at some reserves and battling other people based on your own preferences, probably. But I think this is pretty good. Jessica Shepard, nothing needs to be said there.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think I saw the stat the other day. She had her third triple double, and I believe that nobody in the entire league this year has a triple double. She's the only one has 3.
Crazy.
Brianna Stewart, Gabby Williams, and Asia Wilson. Gabby Williams was one of those interesting ones where a lot of people, she's more in the guard area, but she was a forward as far as voting was concerned. So I think that helped her out a little bit. But again, Golden State, one of the best teams in the league right now, and I love Gabby Williams. So yeah, I think she deserves it.
Yeah, she's obviously we've both been big fans of her for a long time. She's having a good season. We knew she'd be a really good fit on that Valkyries team. So
I think sometimes the hardest thing with all-star voting and people deserving is looking at the whole picture too. It's not just, how many points and rebounds and assists you've had. And the numbers looking at stuff. You got the defense and I don't know, they have
your impact, your overall impact on winning too, which is always a topic.
Yep.
Discussion.
Exactly. So, and then Asia Wilson's on there as well, which obviously she should be. So yeah, no beef with any of that. And all-star reserves, Sonia Citron, I could argue she could have started, but that's totally fine. Throw on the reserves. Alicia Gray, fantastic. Ryan Howard's been amazing. Marina Mabry probably was on the cusp, and then she puts up 53 points, but I don't know if she should have been on the cusp. I know a lot of people talked about it that way. Maybe she could have been a starter is what I mean. Could have just turned into a starter.
I was thinking that for sure. It's close. I mean, a lot of guards, a lot of players playing really well this season. So, yeah. I mean, it's tough to choose.
Kelsey Plum, obviously injured right now, so she'll have some type of replacement for her. Courtney Williams having a great year. Jackie Young, Kiki Iriafin, John Cole Jones, and then Dominique Malonga made it, which is great. I love to see that. Yep. Nneka Ogwumike and Angel Reese. Obviously, there's a lot of drama around the Atlanta Dream not having any starters there, but they got basically their whole team. But Jordan Canada is as reserves, and Jordan Canada probably could have been a reserve as well. So that's one of those people right on the cusp that did not make it that I could easily put up a case that she should have been.
Yeah, Phoenix hasn't had a very good season in terms of wins and losses, but they've got some players, Alyssa Thomas, kind of crazy to see her omitted from the list, but I get it too.
Kalia Copper
you've got to be able to win a little bit or you run the risk of just not being an all-star. Like that's the way it works.
Yep. I think Connecticut was one of those teams too that doesn't have anybody. There was a few teams that don't have representatives, but if you're not that great of a team, it's kind of hard to find the star there. I think probably the biggest player over in Connecticut, the most consistent would be Layla Lacan, but she also didn't play the first portion of the season because of the overseas commitment. Anissa Morrow had a great start, but she's tailed off. And Brittany Griner had a great game the other day, but she's not consistently putting up big numbers. So yeah, there's a lot of people you could have your argument for that made or didn't make it, or that was a reserve and you want it to be a starter. End of the day, I think it's all pretty good. So
yeah, no, they did a good job.
All right. Where do we go to first? Let's talk about transaction because there's not too many of those. Actually, I should say it is fantasy basketball week 9. I did not specify which week we're at here. So yeah, it's getting down there for some of the leagues that we did. We put in 11 weeks. So you only got three regular
people
season
eliminated
weeks
already.
Yes, seen some eliminations.
I'm pretty close in one of them. I did double check and make sure I wasn't one of them. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm actually in the playoffs now, but I'm like barely hanging on.
I'm struggling. Almost all my teams are struggling down the stretch here, making it very, very interesting. Even luckily some of the teams started off, like 6-1 or 5-2 or something like that. So I've had some cushion, which is nice. But I'm losing to teams that aren't even really participating anymore and not making transactions. And I still am, but I've got so many injured players right now. One league, obviously, I think I played you and Asia Wilson was out. Still is. We'll talk about that as we get into the injuries. Same with Sonia Citron, another person I was high on that I'm struggling. So I'm having a tough time. I'm falling apart in a lot of them. Hopefully can make the playoffs in all of them. One of them, I'm out of the playoff picture right now. So we'll see what happens. But
it's tough out there.
Yeah, so let's transactions. I'm not even going to share anything, but you can go ahead with that if you'd like.
I mean, well, the one big one that sort of relates to fantasy is Kennedy Carter being waived by the Las Vegas Aces. And I mean, you and I were talking off air. She's just such a good player, and it doesn't feel right to not have her in the league. And again, like with expansion and stuff, I don't want to close the door on her completely, but obviously we've seen, like, and I don't want to get too much into like her personal life or anything, but obviously there are things off the court that are relayed to this transaction. So obviously pulling for her and just hoping that like this isn't the end. She has been good in terms of like production on the court. And again, like she's a good player. She belongs in the league talent wise. But I mean, we just got to hope that things come together off the court as well.
Yeah, no, like you said, we were talking about it. It stinks, but yeah, whatever. Just got to take care of herself. That's the first thing. And you look at that though, if you are one of those people that really like Jewel Lloyd, roster Jewel Lloyd,
yeah,
definitely going to benefit
that helps
from that, because that was kind of the issue in the beginning of the year. Jewel Lloyd wasn't getting as much usage because Kennedy Carter was doing so great at the beginning of the year. But now that she is out of the way, also with the injury to Asia Wilson, we don't know how long that's going to be. Jewel Lloyd's looked great. So.
Yep. And, credit to the Aces for just giving it a try. I mean, why not? If you're a good team and you've got an open spot, like why not take a really talented player and just see if it works? If it doesn't work, I mean, it doesn't work, but worth a try.
Exactly. So yeah, there were a few other lesser transactions. I don't think they're too relevant to fantasy, so I'll kind of skip over there. Shatori Kimbrough did go to Atlanta, which she has had some streaming value once in a while in the past, but Atlanta's pretty stocked over there, and I assume we're going to see Bree Jones soon. So probably not too much value there, but you can keep an eye and maybe grab her one game here or there if there's an injury or something. But I'm just going to bring up the actual player list in one of my league. I know you've got all the injuries, so we can pretty much follow these out statuses minus one of them.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's start with Asia Wilson. So she's dealing right now with a right leg injury. She's missed the last 3 straight games. And like you said, we don't know, when she's going to be back. Hopefully it's not, too severe here, and hopefully she doesn't miss too much time, but we don't really know. We'll have to see.
And like I said, that's one that Las Vegas has a whole week off next week. And then you start going into the week with the All-Star break. You'd have to look at the actual schedule grid, but Las Vegas does not have that many games between here and the end of the All-Star break. So if they really want to just take care of her, you may not see her for another 3 weeks, if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. So actually just, utilize this as an opportunity to, put her on IL and get aggressive with streaming if you're able to.
Yeah.
I don't remember if you guys talked about Kelsey Plum. She's dealing right now with the lower left leg injury. She's gonna be reevaluated in a few weeks, so that's another tough one. I've got her in a few spots, so
same.
Hasn't helped. Obviously it's an opportunity for some of those other players in LA to kind of step up, but they've got a few players who are down right now, so they're a team, like maybe we'll see something, and who knows what's going to happen in terms of like trades and stuff. But there are opportunities for some other players to either step up into bigger roles, or for players who maybe aren't even on a roster right now to get on a roster and have an opportunity to produce here. So LA is a team that, like, regardless of who they pick up or who's, as long as they're available to play, they could be a potential look, at least in terms of streaming.
We saw Kate Martin go there, who once in a while can, put something up. And like you said, especially at the guard position. And then a lot of leagues, not many, but Erica Wheeler is available. And then we see Ray Burrell available in many leagues too, that are great options to fill spots.
I think Burrell should probably be picked up at this point. I think she's just too good right now with Plum out. I mean, again, it comes down to the schedule, but
and the LA schedule is great next week, so
it's really good. So now's probably the time. Like if she's on any wires, I would probably just pick her up and hang on to her. But all right, let's get into the Skylar Diggins thing. So she apparently was benched. She was told that she would be coming off the bench, like not bench, like still playing in the rotation, but just not starting. She took to social media, wasn't happy about it. And then they just listed her as day-to-day and she didn't play at all. So we don't really know what's going on here. It's a weird situation. Always is in Chicago, unfortunately. But it's going to be an opportunity again for some other players to step up. Natasha Cloud, I picked her up in a league. Just said, hey, look, she's playing well, and might have at least in the short term, might have a nice little boost here. So,
I was gonna say I think in the last Substack I talked about Courtney Vandersloot being a good option to pick up. However, the Chicago schedule is not that great at the current moment, so you have to take that into consideration. Sydney Taylor is an interesting. We've gone back and forth on here all year, right? When Eric Nemchuk came on and he was like, "Did she get her? Go get her. She's awesome."
I was too.
She's putting up great numbers. I picked her up in a bunch of leagues. I still have her in some. I've also dropped her in some. So I kind of, it's fluctuated my ownership on her because you can't really tell what you're going to get for her. So, sometimes she's hot, sometimes she's not. And this guard situation, like you talked about, you don't really know what you're going to get. And now with Vandersloot, like I just mentioned, coming back into the fold, it's like it's very unpredictable. You're not really sure what you're going to get.
If you're a really good team right now, if you're like towards the top of your standings and you have an open roster spot that you've been sort of streaming with, you might want to consider just a couple of these Chicago players, like just pick them up and like, let's just kind of see how this plays out. Let's see what winds up happening here. Because if Diggins doesn't play at all, that's just a huge usage bump for these other players. And, there comes a point where it's not always just about streaming. It's about like, who are the best players, and to add somebody like that to your team gives you a huge long-term advantage. So you got to kind of play it. You just got to kind of factor everything in, but that's something to think about. Like I said, if you're at the top of your standings, if you've got a little bit of flexibility to be able to kind of chance it a little bit with the roster spot.
Oh yeah, that's great. If you're at the top, I think I mentioned that last week or the week before too. Yeah, if you can take on some risk and you're up there or may have even clinched already, definitely look at that type.
Because this is a weird situation. We don't know what's going to happen here. She could get traded, or they could just hold her out and just not play her anymore. We don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see here. We've got Natasha Mack. She's dealing with a bruised left foot. She's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks, so that sucks. Got her in a couple spots. We already talked about Phoenix and their struggles. So,
and AI has been great. You can pick her up in the meantime. Noemi Brochant has returned. She didn't have a great game yesterday, but still, that front court is going to be interesting. And then also,
a lot of streaming opportunities.
Alyssa Thomas had a weird little scare the other day too. She came back into the game though, but who knows? Maybe there's some after effects to that. So a lot of options in Phoenix. Joanna Bonner, I picked up in one league. They also have a decent schedule this week. I believe they play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So
it's a good call. Real good call. Satu Sabali, obviously she's been struggling all year to stay healthy. Right now she's in concussion protocol. She's missed 4 straight games. We know the deal too with New York. I mean, when they're fully healthy, and Serena, she's back now and really starting to kind of ramp up a little bit. So when they're full strength, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to really kind of gauge this team. But for now, I just keep her on IL and just hope that she can somehow get into a groove. Maybe the All-Star break will help in terms of just kind of stepping aside a little bit and taking a breather.
I was going to say other names we saw there. Pauline Astier has been putting in some good minutes and get some good production. Rebecca Gardner actually started the other day. Not so good as far as what you expected in a starting role, but that's totally fine. You can stream her. And Leonie Fibic.
Yeah, she's on the day-to-day list right now. but she's not marked on ESPN. And we've both made comments on X, trying to get the attention of ESPN to change that. I don't have any explanation for it.
I don't either. It's disappointing.
I don't know if it's like intentional, if it's just a complete mistake, if they're just.
It's got to be a mistake because you look at the notes.
I know.
They stole it from,
and they get their news from RotoWire. It says it right on there, but they just obviously something's not being flagged to them directly. Like, hey guys, it's time to change your status. So
yeah, so Fevish is out, I think.
yeah. So in any case, in real life here, there are opportunities, like you said, for some of these players in New York in the short term. Exactly. So if you are streaming, like, target that team and look at them. So, and then some good news, a couple people that made their season debuts. Ezzy Megbagor, she had the right foot injury. She made her debut on July 2nd. She's playing with the minutes limit, and we know Seattle has all those bigs right now. So just something to kind of, again, if you have the ability to roster her in the short term and just kind of see how this situation plays out. Maybe somebody gets traded or something. Maybe somebody goes down with an injury or something. Just kind of see. I was stashing her in a couple of spots, and I'm still stashing her in one of them. In the other one, I was able to activate her and just take whatever she gives me here. So, and then Dorka Juhas, she also had a right foot injury. She made her season debut on July 7th. And she's somebody that, like, I think is more of a fringe kind of streamer. Again, when everybody's healthy, and they do have other players that are going to be coming back here hopefully pretty soon. So,
yeah, I don't want to get into it. Let me get into it after we finish all these injuries. I was going to go into some trade talk, but the two you just mentioned right here, I need to add some more stuff onto. But
okay.
Sorry, who else was on your list?
That's it for. And then I was just going to say my day-to-day list: Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Olivia Miles, Sonia Citron, Anissa Morrow, and Febich.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Awesome. So yes, exactly right. Do note. We'll take a look at that. Now let's do it right now. Let me take a look at the little schedule thing I got. I don't usually share it on the podcast again here, but I'm going to share the screen. Let's see.
It hasn't just been the two of us for a while here. We've had a lot of guests. It's been great.
So let me add this.
But now we've got a little bit more screen space here.
There we go. So now we get in there. So this here is week 9 schedule grid. I did make some updates. I did add this onto the Substack. So if you do happen to go on there, you'll see it. Like I said, I haven't been sharing the grid because we've had guests. Kind of doesn't go in order, and you can go look at the Substack if you want to go see this. But now you actually have the print version, so you can do everything with that. And just quick, if you look over, you can see the far right side of it. You see how many games that team is playing, team names on the left, how many games or teams are in action, I should say, at each date through week 9. So you can see Monday through Sunday there. Yep. And and then I kind of just highlighted the kind of nice streaming areas compared to the regular ones, which are the regular kind of orange on this one this week, and then the red, the not so great streaming areas for teams. So obviously you can see the Washington Mystics only have one game here from Monday up until Sundays, but they have their second game. Yeah, you probably don't want to stream any Washington Mystics around that point. But I can tell you, when you start looking into week 10, the Washington Mystics have the best streaming schedule until the All-Star break. So you'll see week 10 that will come out in a few days. But yeah, there's a back-to-back for Indiana right here. They got the Wednesday, Thursday. So if Aaliyah Boston does miss time, if Caitlin Clark does miss time, great time to pick up one player: Alexi Hall, Sophie Cunningham, Monique Billings, Maisha Hines-Allen, even Michaela Timpson is a possible add there. Ty Harris. There's tons of options that you can get in a back.
Maybe watch the news, and if you're able to, try to see if you can wait to figure out which player to pick up for the back-to-back. If you're able to.
This is
if you're in a deeper league, a little bit more competitive, and you don't have time to wait, then just chance it with one of them and hope for the best.
Yep. You see a lot of Monday, Wednesday, Friday teams this week. There were 3 of them. You see Las Vegas has the back-to-back there at the end of Saturday, Sunday. However, Las Vegas does not have that great of streaming options, as we mentioned. But if Jewel Lloyd happens to be available, it is a good time to pick her up. She'll get 3 games in 4 days, so that's really nice.
And again, with Asia out, that helps other
Precisely.
players too, if she does
Exactly.
wind up missing time.
Exactly. But anyway, so this you can find on the Substack now. It does look like this. I'm trying to get it look as close to this as I can every single week. I did use a little bit of Copilot help to give me some nice colors and definition and graphics to it. But yeah, this was my enhanced Excel sheet. But yeah, you can go see that on Substack. So there is that. And then, yeah, I was going to talk about some kind of trade stuff. So the trade deadline for actual WNBA, I forgot to write this down. I believe is like August 2nd. You'd have to verify that for me. But the actual trade deadline for most Yahoo, I wish it was Yahoo, ESPN fantasy WNBA leagues is the 17th, July 17th. You got to verify that for me too. I'm sorry. I got to look that up.
Trying to find both.
Let's get that real quick. I'm going to share this.
Looks like August 2nd is the trade
there you go.
deadline.
Okay, so I did have that right. And I believe it's July 17th for actual fantasy trades.
That sounds
standard.
right. And that's probably what it should be based on the settings that we have and that we were recommending at the beginning of the year.
Exactly. So we are very close to that spot.
So start looking, start targeting.
Yeah. So if you're trying to make trades, I actually started going as far today as looking at the schedule during the actual semi and finals, right?
You got to do, man.
Schedules.
That's what you got to do.
Where ours is scheduled to end the regular season at 11 after 11 weeks. If you look at the semifinals and the finals, it's basically the whole month of August is what you're looking at. There are some teams, two teams in particular, that don't have a fantastic playoff schedule. One of them being Seattle, the other one being Minnesota. So if you're counting on players from those two teams in your playoffs,
I need to rethink that a little bit.
Does not look as good. But however, I can also tell you that some of those 2-week periods are, heavier for a team. You might have 4 games on one and then 2 on the second week. So you have ability to make some good transactions and get some good streaming opportunities within half and half of playoff competitions, if that's the way your league is set up. Obviously, every week, every league's playoff scenario is different. Might be different weeks. You might have buys. You might have single weeks. You might, I don't know. So you have to look at that. But
these are
take
all
that into
things
consideration.
Take into consideration and just think about it. Like, you don't want to overreact. You don't want to just panic and say, "Oh, I have to move off of certain players because of the schedule." It's just something to kind of keep in mind. And just when you're making decisions, think about the short term and the long term ramifications to that.
Exactly. So yeah, moving into possible trade scenarios. You mentioned Ezzy Megbagor returning. I feel like there's got to be a chance for maybe her to be moved. I know she did I think she got the $1 million deal. So maybe it's hard to match stuff with certain teams. I don't know. I'm not into all that stuff. I'm just going to throw out teams that I feel like, there's teams that need bigs. And we've
talked about them.
We discussed the Golden State Valkyries many times. They could use another big. And I feel like Ezzy Megbagor could be a great fit over there, especially if you're splitting time with Kia Stokes between Megbagor and Stokes. Amazing.
Stokes
defense.
has been awesome, by the way.
Stokes has been fantastic, but sometimes you need a little bit more offense, I feel like. And I think you might be able to get that from Megbagor.
Yep.
Anyways, it's just something you look at Seattle. I wasn't, I thought something was going to happen to her before the season even started. Once they drafted Alabama and they have Malonga, I think that's your 2-piece, and Flaugier, but those are your 2 front court pieces you're building around. I don't think there's much room for Megbagor. If you want to keep her, cool, but you might be able to turn her into something. And Seattle is not competing for anything right now. So that's an option. That was one person I thought. Who was it? Michael Waterloo brought up Shakira Austin in the past. I think that's definitely still another option. And I think it's the exact same idea I just talked about with Seattle there. They already have some front court players. They got Kiki Uriafin. They drafted Lauren Betts. So almost kind of the exact same situation. There were the rumors about Shakira Austin going to Toronto in the offseason. And that's why I mentioned Michael Waterloo. He said he could see her going there still in a trade or ultimately getting there. And I could see the same thing, her moving or anywhere somebody needs a big. So that's one. And then the other one that you talked about Minnesota. They don't have true point guard backups to Olivia Miles. They also have a surplus of players, like you just mentioned, Dorka Juhas. So I don't think she's a huge player to roster here with Minnesota. Obviously, you can grab her for a stream, but maybe Dorka Juhas gets moved. Nia Coffey's had such a good year, so I don't think she gets moved. But they just have that. That just helps the Dorka Juhas conversation, right?
Yeah.
Where
that's a good point.
I don't know, it just feels like she could be moved as well. So
yeah,
those are players to look at, and yeah, maybe a guard goes from another team. I've heard rumors of JC Sheldon moving somewhere and backing up Olivia Miles. That makes JC Sheldon all that more important. If right now in Chicago, you don't really need her. But if she's a backup in Minnesota, it could be a lot more valuable for fantasy.
Yeah, I keep bringing up Elizabeth Williams. I think she's somebody that just would make a lot of sense on a lot of different teams. And, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, if she could hit some free throws, that'd be nice. But
it would help. That would definitely help. But, I mean, I think she could be playing a bigger role. I think part of it, too, is like, she's so in and out of the lineup that, like, it's hard to get in the groove. It's hard even for things like shooting free throws when you're so yanked in and out of the lineup. And we've talked all about the struggles that Chicago's had. So,
nope, I completely agree. All right.
Stuff all to consider. And like when you're looking at, just put some of these players on a watch list, and just, or like a mental list of like, just keep checking on their status and be ready to pounce if something changes here, especially a trade.
I was going to say myself, every league I have a watch list of anybody who I'm considering, keeping a watch on, right, and putting in my lineup, which is what it's there for. But
exactly,
yeah, it's very nice to utilize and help you filter through those players. So, I think that just about does it. Anything else from you? I think that covers a good amount of stuff.
It, man. Good episode, right. Productive.
Cool. There you go. So we can do it by ourselves. I know we've done it in the past. We don't do it that much this season. I love having the guests on.
It's all fun. Either way, it's a good time.
That's one of my favorite things of the podcast. But
mix it up.
Yeah, let me see if I can get this music started right. There we go. All right. So that will do it. Week 9, week 10 coming up. The new Substack will come out tomorrow morning for the weekend edition. Then you'll see week 10 coming out after that. So yeah, if you want to see the grid or get some ideas, I always try to get some players on there that are, low percentage owned players that you have a chance of picking up. But yeah, check us out on the X Blue Sky. Steve is at podcast_Pierre. I'm at Dead Keller. Yeah, check us out everywhere. Give us the reviews and ratings, and yeah, I don't know. Talk to everybody next week.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep, later.
Will Slam Beer.